Welcome to Eat Well, Travel Often, a podcast about food, travel, the environment, mind, body, and spirit. I'm Melissa Goldberg, and over the course of my adult life, I've been focused on how to build an integrated community around food, health, wellness, and the environment. These are all related. Understanding these interrelationships helps us look at life as a holistic system and teaches us how to connect with each other to create a loving and thriving community. On Eat Well, Travel Often, I talk to farmers, foragers, cookbook authors, doctors, scientists, and entrepreneurs. All have one thing in common. The people I speak with are trying to better everyone's lives through their work and passion. These are the people who inspire me to be a better person. I hope to share with you my curiosity from everything from book to plate. And the goal of these conversations are to inspire you to eat well and travel often. In April, the New York Times ran a story by Michael Corkery and David Yaffe-Bellany about how many of the nation's largest farms are struggling with this pandemic. It opened the world's eyes to how farmers who service the restaurant, school, and hotel industries have been forced to destroy tens of millions of pounds of fresh food that they can no longer sell. Who knew that there were two separate supply chains, one for grocery stores and another for the corporate industrial food world? While Americans are struggling to put food on their tables, farmers are dumping thousands of tons of fresh produce, fruits, and meats. The Times story got picked up all over the country, and after a group of high school friends who were now home from college because of COVID-19 learned about this waste, they decided to do something about it. These young men and women understood the underlying issues of food insecurity that plagued our country from volunteering at local food pantries during their high school years. They saw and see how the number of Americans suffering from food insecurity have grown exponentially during this pandemic. Max Goldman and his friends started FarmLink, a nonprofit organization to connect these farms, the ones dumping healthy food, with food banks that sorely need produce to feed their clients. I first read about FarmLink in a follow-up story by the same reporters in the New York Times. I knew I wanted to interview these kids for the podcast. This was something that I really connected with. For years, I've been raising money to purchase produce from small local farms to donate to local food pantries. Listen to my previous episode where I interview Robin Peacock of Men NJ to learn more. There will be a link in the show notes. FarmLink was started by a group of college students, largely from Brown, Stanford, Cornell, and USC, all united by the desire to keep Americans fed and farms in business. Since starting last month, April 2020, the group has diverted hundreds of thousands of pounds of produce from being dumped to food pantries in California. I caught up with Max, who is currently a junior at Brown University and now living back at home in California where he grew up. He and the other founders went to high school together at St. Matthew's Parish School in Pacific Palisades. Please remember while listening to the following conversation, Max is 19 or 20 years old and not a polished corporate executive with media training. He is a young man who, along with his friends, started a nonprofit grassroots movement helping farms and food banks during this crisis of food instability. They are learning as they go and doing some really great work. All right. Welcome, Max. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me. How are you doing?
Doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great. So first question for you. Prior to COVID-19, more than 37 million Americans were food insecure. The number obviously has significantly increased, and food insecurity is defined as the lack of sufficient access to food. How has food insecurity changed or increased during this pandemic? What have you seen?
Yeah, so I guess one of the main things that we've seen regarding food insecurity during this pandemic is all the photos of the lines of cars lined up outside food banks and the reports that, it's taking hours for people to get their weekly food from the food banks. And that was kind of one of the big reasons why we started the FarmLink project. Was these photos of long lines in the articles.
So food insecurity is, it's not a new issue in the U.S. What about this issue speaks to you and all of your friends who are working on this project?
Yeah, we definitely have learned throughout working on this project that this is not a issue that's just happening right now. We were. It was just a group of friends that wanted to do something. We all got sent home from school. We had a ton of extra time, and we wanted to find a way that we could help give back to our community. And it was just through reading articles online that we saw all this food going to waste while the lines at these food banks had never been longer. And we just kind of did our first delivery. We matched one farmer with our local food bank that we'd worked with throughout middle school and high school. And then it worked. And we just kind of tried to do it on a larger scale. And, every week we are able to complete more deliveries. And we've just grown it from the original 5 of us to now a team of over 50 college students.
Where you're the initial food bank that you're talking about, where is that? What?
Yeah, so the initial delivery we did was from a farm in Idaho. It was 50,000 pounds of onions to a food bank called Food Finders in Los Alamitos, California.
So how did you get it from Idaho to California?
So we reached out to a farmer who was in one of these articles that kind of prompted this whole project. And we asked if he'd be willing to donate his next surplus instead of putting it in the dump. And he agreed, and he also had a freight company that he often worked with. So for that first delivery, we just used his already existing transportation network. And we basically had them deliver the onions to LA.
That's incredible. What was their initial reaction when you called them and said, "Hey, we're these students that want to take your wasted produce and send it out to California"?
I actually wasn't on the call for that initial one, but kind of what people said. These farmers that we've called since then and taken their food. One quote that really stood out to me was a farmer said, the day he had to bury his food because no one would buy it was the worst day in his life. And just donating it was way better than letting it go to waste. These farmers work all year just to produce these crops, and they really don't want to see them go to waste. And so they've been really appreciative that we are, we have the resources and time to try and help reroute them to people in need.
So what was the aha moment? Like, what did you see out there that you are like, we got to do something? And like, what was the initial conversation?
Yeah. So it was two of my friends had seen an article in the New York Times that was talking about this onion farmer again who had these 2 million pounds of food, and he kept dumping them in his backyard. So they originally reached out to him and asked if he would donate them, and he agreed. And so that was kind of like the original idea from it. And then the next day we found 10,000 eggs in LA that we rescued, and we sent them to Westside Food Bank. And kind of after that, we just realized that we could do this. There was a need for this, and we had to branch out and find farms all over the country and get the food to more food banks just than the ones in LA.
So you started with your friends at, where do you guys go to school?
So it started with a mix of students from Brown University and Stanford, but now I think we have students from probably 10 or 15 universities helping us.
So where do you go to school?
I go to Brown.
You go to Brown. So you were the East Coast connection, and you had your friends out in California.
The group of students that actually started we all went to middle school and high school together as well.
Oh, where'd you guys grow up together?
We all grew up in LA. We went to St. Matthew's for middle school, and then Loyola and Harvard Westlake for high school.
I was just trying to figure out your connection with LA and why you started LA, because you're in Rhode Island. So that's why you all wanted to go back to where you were home. That was home for you, for all of you.
Yeah, we were all at home, and we had a long, both at St. Matthew's and Loyal, where I went to high school, community service was a big part of it. And we would often volunteer at the food banks. We would do food drives for them. So we really wanted to help out our local food bank, and that's how this kind of all started. And that's why we chose to deliver to these two food banks, because we've had a relationship with them. But obviously, so we're delivering 40,000 pounds of potatoes, in a single delivery. We want to be able to spread that to more than just the LA food banks.
That's a lot of potatoes or a lot of onions, and you said 10,000 eggs. I assumed it didn't go to one food bank, did it? 10,000 eggs. I don't know how many of these food banks feed. Can they take on 10,000 eggs? Do they have storage for that?
For a lot of the things, we're actually delivering them to like food bank distributors. So these food banks will distribute to like 50 smaller food banks or pantries all over the city. So they can often take pretty big shipments. Typically we're doing full truckloads, which is 26 pallets. That usually comes to around 30 to 40,000 pounds of food. Usually we're delivering these all to one location, and then they, through their network, distribute it to multiple smaller local pantries that get it out to the individuals.
I see. So farm waste isn't new. Farms throw away millions of tons of food every year. Why do you think they're willing to work with you now? And are they getting paid for this? Or do you pay them for their produce, or they're just giving it to you?
Yes. So originally before we knew a lot about this, we were really trying to capitalize on the restaurant and commercial supply chain that had broken down. And our first delivery was actually donated to us. But then as we learned more about this issue, we realized that, it, as important as it is getting these food to these food banks, supporting our farmers and truckers is equally as important. So with our past deliveries, we've actually covered the cost of harvesting the food. So the farmers can pay their employees, as well as covering the transportation. So the truckers are getting paid. So it's helping the whole ecosystem of kind of farm to table.
That's fantastic. You mentioned there's 50 students now working with you, I assume across the country. Now I would assume they're not all your friends. How are they finding out about you, and how are they helping? Yeah,
so I guess, it's been a lot of friends of friends. And we've grown. We started just 3 weeks ago, so we really needed help. We needed all the help we could get. So everyone would just bring on their friend from school, and then that friend would bring on their friend. And then as we started to get a little bit of attention in the media, we've actually had over thousands of people reach out to us wanting to help. So we have this whole volunteer network of people finding farms and food banks in their local communities. And then we help facilitate those deals when they find them, and with funding and logistics. So, it's a team of 50 immediate people, but the true team is thousands of us all over the country that are, working to help make a dent in this issue.
Well, that's great. Well, besides doing this podcast, and one of the things why I really wanted to speak to you is I work with local farmers here in New Jersey and local small farmers. And one of the things I do is I fundraise every single year to purchase produce from these farms to get it right to the food pantry. So it helps out the farmers and it helps out the food pantries. And it's exactly what you're doing. You're just connecting the two together, which is really, really fantastic. And I love it. I love what you're doing. So it sounds like you got onions, you got eggs, you got potatoes, but that's not that big of an assortment. Are you now getting different things, or is it okay that you're just doing this and the food and the pantries are able to get other stuff, or are you getting more different types of food now?
Yeah. So I guess we started with onions and eggs, just because those were kind of things that we found right off the bat. But recently we've been trying to kind of diversify and get all. Last week we delivered 25,000 pounds of zucchini squash to San Diego, as well as 40,000 pounds of lettuce to Northern California. We did that on top of 150,000 pounds of potatoes to different places all over the country. So we're definitely trying to diversify. There's some crops that are a lot easier to transport than others, like potatoes last for a long time and food banks can store them, whereas lettuce and zucchini and eggs need refrigeration space, and that's hard to come out of all these food banks. So really how we feel like we can help is if you're getting 40,000 pounds of food, you're not going to be able to distribute that all in one day. So most of these food banks from us are wanting potatoes, onions, carrots, and stuff like that has long shelf lives.
I guess you guys are really learning about how to transport food now, and you can see how it's not an easy job to keep it fresh, get it from one place to the next. Are you finding out things that you never thought you would know?
Yeah, I mean, we're learning new stuff in everything every day about this whole process. But we were actually lucky enough to partner with Uber Freight, who is helping us a lot with transportation and even covering some of the transportation costs for us. So they've definitely taught us a ton throughout this whole process and have made it very easy for us to get our food from point A to point B as efficiently and as safely as possible.
Did you say Uber Freight?
It's basically like it's the same exact technology that you and I would use on Uber, but instead of picking you up and dropping you off, you basically set a pickup location for your freight. You say what it is, how much it weighs, and all the details, and you add a drop-off location, and their network connects the trucker with that and completes the process.
That's amazing. I never heard of that. Are they donating their time for this?
So yeah, just like Uber, I believe all the truckers are like independent contractors. So Uber, I believe, is covering for the deliveries that they pay for. I believe they're paying the trucker out of their pocket for us.
So you have, it sounds like right now you've only had deliveries in California. Are there other states that you're working on too?
Yeah, so we've actually delivered to Utah. So far we've delivered to Utah, California, and Massachusetts. But this week we're looking to expand to Texas, Detroit, and New York City. But we're actively looking to do deliveries all over the country. It happens right now that a lot of the food that's being harvested is in California or coming up from Mexico. So for the first few deliveries, we wanted to keep it local to keep costs down, and we're all in California for the most part, so it's easier to kind of manage and make sure the quality is what the farmers say it is, and just as we've learned, it's been easier to keep it close to us. But our goal is definitely to get a delivery in all 48 continental states.
You're learning about the seasonality of the produce. Like our farmers here on the East Coast are just planting their crops now. They don't have, unless they're doing it in a greenhouse, they are, there's nothing in the ground. It's just starting to grow. So that's why you're getting everything in California. How are you reaching these farmers and how are you finding them?
Yeah, so the most efficient way we've found so far is finding these farmers that have been mentioned in articles about food waste, the ones that are dumping food and like ABC or piece on them. So we'll reach out to them directly. But, after we've exhausted all those, we've been finding, 300 potato farms and cold calling them and seeing who has a surplus and who's willing to work with us. And then also reaching out to commissions, like agricultural commissions, to put the word out to to all the farmers they represent and then, social media through Facebook groups and stuff like that.
So the idea is not only, I mean, you initially, the idea is not just to feed the hungry or help the farmer. The idea is to help the whole supply chain, right? And,
Yes.
oh, right now, you're helping farmers. They're receiving tax vouchers. Is that true? Or are they getting direct payments? How are they getting paid?
Yeah. So basically we're paying them for, we agree on a price per ton or whatever, what we're picking up is, and then we'll just pay them directly. But if they are donating the food, they can also receive a tax credit for their donations.
Oh, I see. That's great. How are you guys funded? Are you just raising money through donations? Have you gotten any grants? Have you gotten any celebrities to donate as, large donors or anything?
Yeah, so far we're entirely funded off of just individuals all over the United States. We've had an incredible amount of support so far. And, in the coming weeks, we're probably going to add some corporate sponsors as well. I guess our first was Uber, kind of, with their donation of transportation. But at the moment, we're entirely funded from friends and family, and then, everyone that's read about us and, believes in what we're doing.
How much have you raised so far?
It's been, I don't know, the exact number right now, but I think it's close to $200,000.
Oh, well, that's great. And how much does one shipment usually cost? I would assume that you kind of have to figure out if you're getting 10,000 of potatoes or whatever, each shipment probably costs a lot of money to get it pay the farm, shipping to the area. How much do you think you need to do this?
So our goal is to do move 1 million pounds of food by the end of this month. We're already, at the start of this week, we'd already moved 250,000 pounds. And we think it's per million pounds probably going to take us $75,000 to $100,000. And, it's kind of hard to say what each delivery costs because depending on what type of food it is, how far it's going, there's a lot of different variables, but I'd say probably anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000 per delivery.
Wow, that's a lot. But with your $200,000, you can do a lot of deliveries right now. How besides you mentioned Instagram and Facebook and social media? I read about you in the New York Times. How did they find out about you? How are you getting your message out there? Was it just word of mouth?
It's been, so the New York Times article came out, I think about 2 weeks now. And then from that, we've had, hundreds of people reach out to us, share our movement on Facebook. But that kind of led to a lot of other news agencies reaching out to us and doing pieces. So we've been in Fox, ABC, Now This, a lot of different news channels. So it's kind of spread through that. And every time one of those goes out, a lot more people kind of follow us and spread the word to all their friends and family as well.
I recently read an article about an egg farm that is about to execute their chickens if they don't find a place to sell their eggs. I think they sell their eggs to hotels and other processing plants. Are these the types of farms you're looking for?
Yeah, we're looking to, save farmers from going out of business in any way possible. And yeah, over the last week, we've seen a lot of these egg farmers as well as, meats and poultry kind of release the same things where, they don't have a place to send their animals. So we're trying to find out how we can, assist in that and, buy those eggs so they don't have to execute their chickens. And yeah, we're looking into that this week and seeing what we can do.
So while no one wants to see food go to waste, many of these farms are big industrial farms that are really not good for our health and our environment. This egg farm, that I mentioned has over 160,000 chickens at their farm producing 60,000 eggs a day. That's a lot of chickens in one place. I mean, do you see that a lot of these farms are, I mean, I'm sure you're learning about some of these are just not so great for the environment or the animals. What are you finding about these farms? Are you learning things about farming?
Yeah, I mean, we're learning a ton about farming every day. Most of the farms we've worked with so far are these smaller kind of family-run farms, and that's kind of where we really want to help. The big corporate farms, they're going to be able to weather the storm a little bit better than these, 5-generation run family farms. And I think, I'm no expert on farming, and I don't know enough, but it seems like those are the ones that are a little bit more environmentally conscious and, are, more environmentally conscious. But I don't really know much about that yet, but we're definitely learning more every day.
How long do you guys expect to be doing this? Do you think it's going to just continue on, or do you think as states start to open up, it's going to change, or you think you will be able to continue to do this? Because there's food waste everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, food waste is not a new issue, and then as well as, the need for food. So I think this project can definitely continue. Right now we're kind of finding farms that either sell to restaurants, like the potato industry is down like 95% right now because all these fast food restaurants aren't buying potatoes for French fries. So that's kind of why there's this huge surplus of potatoes. But I think as this, as we kind of shift back to normal, I think we'll have to adapt and find food in other ways, and it will be, we'll be saving different types of food, but I think it's definitely still an issue, and we can definitely, help make an impact even after this is over.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, there's so much food waste. I mean, Americans like their produce perfect, the perfect apple, the perfect tomato. So farmers throw out all that stuff that can go right to the food pantries. So those might be the different type of farm that you're not focusing on right now. Those might be the farms that go direct to the supermarket, but there's a whole market out there that, or not, I don't know if the word is market. There is an area of waste that you can definitely help out, I think.
The zucchini that we actually bought was imperfect zucchini. So it was actually, the supermarkets deemed it too big to sell, but it was still perfectly good. So that was, I think that if we're going to have to do more deals like that, but this issue will not go away. We're not going to solve it by ourselves, but hopefully we can make a small difference.
Have you been tracking how much food is going to waste since the pandemic started? Do you have an idea of what?
There's tons of different estimates out there. I've seen anywhere from 6 to 10 times more waste. But I believe there's on like a normal year, there's over 60 billion pounds of food waste, if not more. And, I'd assume that it's far higher right now.
So what year are you in college?
I'm just finishing my junior year tomorrow.
Okay. Do you think that, if school starts again in the fall, you guys will be able to continue this? Or is this something that you are like, how are you going to do this?
We have a lot of computer science majors on our team. And, our big goal is to be able to create online marketplaces where we can just connect the farmers and the food banks to even take us out, because, working through us is even an inefficiency. It takes time to make these connections. So if we can connect the food directly with the source, that would be the most efficient and effective way to help solve this problem. So our goal is to learn enough that we can hopefully build a network that can, kind of do what we're doing, but, without us as the middle, as kind of making it happen. So I definitely see, hopefully in the fall, we'll be able to, continue this, maybe not with us doing everything, but, virtually connect, or like creating a marketplace that will connect these farms and food banks.
Did you set up a 501c3? Are you a nonprofit organization yet, or are you working towards that?
So we applied for our own 501c3 right when we started, but obviously, as you probably know, it takes about 6 months to get. So we are actually fiscally sponsored by Food Finders, which is the food bank that we delivered our first shipment to, and kind of our partner. So we're able to receive all the benefits of being a nonprofit right from the start.
So farmers are often very conservative, and food banks often feed urban residents and are very in liberal neighborhoods. Have you seen any politics playing into this, or is farmers just happy to get rid of their stuff and the food banks are just happy to get the produce?
There have been some politics that we've run into, but I would say the majority of farmers, really care about seeing, they don't want their crops to go to waste. And, they really want to help in this time of need. Everyone, what I think we've learned from this project and what I've really seen is that, America's banding together. We've had support we've gotten over, I think, 2,500 individual donations from people we don't know. And that's just been incredible to see, everyone. It gives you faith in America that everyone's just banding together and trying to solve this problem. And I think it's the same for farmers. They don't really, they're kind of putting the politics aside and just want to see their food end up in these food banks and not the dump.
Is there what have you learned about the American food system since you started speaking with farmers and doing this that has surprised you?
Well, one thing is that there's the group that delivers to supermarkets and the group that delivers to all, corporate things from restaurants to stadiums are very divided and almost they can't merge into each other. So, we saw one of the farms we are working with has a line that goes directly to supermarkets 5 feet away from their line that goes to fast food restaurants, but they can't convert that line. So it's just sitting there empty. So I think there's a lot of inefficiencies in the, entire market, as well as a ton of waste all year, regardless of what's going on right now.
Is there anything that has disappointed you or has given you hope for the farming industry, or even just as human nature now? Have you seen, stories of people? Do you go to the food banks and see what's happening? And are they so thankful for you to get this stuff to them?
I mean, I think, yes, just all the outreach we have gone, be it donations or people wanting to help out, has just been incredible. And it really gives you hope that, we can come together and really solve this problem. We've had thousands of people emailing us, just thanking us for what we're doing. Probably almost 5,000 to 10,000 people who want to find their own farms and help call and find food on our behalf. So just everyone reaching out, I think, has been so inspiring, and there's hope.
Are there people listening? Are there key things that you still need or want that could really help this to be more efficient? Or is there a certain thing that you guys are looking for that you haven't been able to connect with? Like, you got Uber Freight to help you, but is there something that would also, a technology company, something that can even elevate this even more?
I mean, we're always looking for more people who want to help out, be it finding farms or food banks in need, as well as, donating so we can continue to facilitate these deliveries. I think the easiest way to learn more is on our website, which is farmlinkproject.org, and you can sign up to volunteer or list. If you're a farmer, you can list the surplus food you have, and if you're a food bank, you can list what you need. I think that right now is the most helpful thing, as we can easily keep track of where food is and where we need to pay attention and get food to.
Right now, how many food banks do you have signed up, and how many farms? Are they coming in, or is it still a slow process to get that going?
The food banks are definitely coming in. We probably have, hundreds of food banks that have reached out, telling us what they need. But the farms have been a little bit slow. We haven't had as many people reach out, as many farmers reach out, and it's still been a lot of cold calling and trying to find farms that are willing to work with us.
Right. So that's one of the things you probably need, is someone who knows all the farmers who are, or someone in the hotel industry, or those kind of, who are not getting their stuff anymore, and they know how to connect. They know where their produce is coming, or mass packers or things like that could help you connect to these farmers. Yeah,
we've worked with universities, like university dining halls and food services, to try and reroute some of the food that would typically go to them. And we're trying to, trying to reach out to those farms, but they tend to be the larger kind of corporate farms that are a little bit harder to work with, and it takes a little bit more time because there's a lot of red tape in them donating food.
So is there something that I haven't asked that you want everybody to know? Is there something that, that you're doing that I just didn't touch upon?
I think our goal is relatively simple. Our goal, started off trying to get food to the food banks in need, but as we kind of learn more about the industry as a whole, we realized how important it is to support the entire supply chain, from farmer to transportation to the food banks.
Well, Max, thank you so much for talking to me. And I really, really love what you're doing. And, anything that could get food into people's mouths and help out these farmers. I mean, I always say farmers are our lifeline. And, during this pandemic, I'm not diminishing what the people are doing in the hospitals. I mean, they are a lifeline, but we all need to eat, and we all need our food. And if it doesn't get spread around, then I don't know what we're going to do. And it's really important. And I'm really excited at what you guys are doing. And I hope that it continues after this pandemic ends, and that you are able to feed everybody and not waste any food out there. So thank you for doing this. And I thank all you guys that are doing this and for thinking it up. It's a really fantastic idea.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
And now we are at the Book to Plate segment of Eat Well, Travel Often podcast. Here, I report back to you my personal experience. It could be a cookbook I cook from, a restaurant I ate at, even a place I recently visited. If you have any suggestions, please reach out to me. Since we've been all on lockdown, it seems that bread making at home has had a resurgence. But I bet that there are still some of you out there who the thought of making bread gives you anxiety. I am here to tell you that everyone can do it, and the best way to start is with no-knead bread. It's easy and delicious. After making this bread, you may not even want to try another bread. It's that good, but I bet it will inspire you to try other ways. Either way, I can tell you from personal experience, no-knead bread is a favorite in my household. The hardest part about no-knead bread is getting the timing correct, but my son created a timing chart that I will put in the show notes, all based on when you want to eat it. No-knead bread was made famous by Mark Bittman, who first wrote about it back in 2006 in the New York Times. He had learned how to make it by Jim Leahy, owner of the Sullivan Street Bakery, who developed the recipe while trying to find an easy way to replicate a delicious bread at home. And the recipe is ridiculously easy. No ratios, weighing, or kneading. The only big equipment you really need is a mixing bowl and a 6 to 8 quart heavy covered pot, cast iron, enamel, Pyrex, ceramic, whatever you got. I use cast iron pot with a glass top. Basically, you combine flour, yeast, water, salt in a bowl, and let it sit overnight to ferment. It slowly rises at room temperature. The next day, you dump out the mixture onto a floured surface to rest and then form it into a ball to rise again. The bread is baked in the oven for less than an hour, 30 minutes with a cover on the pot, and then more with the cover off. Poof! You have the most delicious bread. The bread is best eaten the same day. It usually doesn't last in my house more than that. But if you do have leftovers, just wrap tightly and store at room temperature. The best way to learn how to make this bread is to watch a video of Mark Bittman with James Leahy explaining the steps. Watch the video in its entirety. It is less than 5 minutes. You have the time. We're all locked in. This will give you an overall understanding of the process, and then go for it. I will post the video and recipe in the show notes. Report back and let me know how it goes. Thanks, Matt, for speaking with me. I know I'm not alone when I say what you and your friends are doing is truly amazing work. If you want to know more about FarmLink, to donate, or are a farm or pantry that wants to sign up to participate, see the show notes where all the links will be posted. If you want to reach me, you can find me on social media at Facebook and Instagram at Eat Well Travel Often Podcast, or drop me a line, Melissa at eatwelltraveloften.net. Eat well, be safe, be well.